On another Friday, that was not very kind to Vince McMahon, thanks to the Wall Street Journal. This is your Smack Page review for July 8th, 2022. I am the Solomonster. I tell you what, the biggest surprise of the night was the fact that the old man was able to control himself and not walk to the ring to make an appearance on TV tonight. I thought for sure this is going to be the new thing now. There's going to be a new story that drops every other month on a Friday, and all of a sudden there's going to be a big Vince McMahon segment announced, and he's going to march down to the ring, and he's going to get in the ring and say absolutely nothing and then immediately leave. But shockingly, he was able to control his urges tonight. Of course, not being able to control his urges is what got him in trouble in the first place. But Roman Reigns showed up tonight. Roman Reigns actually showed up for work tonight, which I know is a rarity these days. And hey, good for him, right? Good for him. He was able to get himself that sweet contract. Who among us would not like to actually work less dates? I don't fault Roman Reigns for that. Good for him. Get that bag. Get that sweet, sweet Brock Lesnar-esque schedule. Unfortunately, it has made for a much worse show, but you know what? Tonight, I think, should have shown everybody something, and what that should have shown us is that even when Roman Reigns is on the show, it is still not enough to make SmackDown a good show. There was a period of time where when Roman Reigns was on the show and you had those bloodline segments, it at least helped make the show feel more important. Tonight, Roman Reigns was back, a rare appearance. It did not make SmackDown any better. This show is still abysmal. And to be honest with you, on a lot of weeks, this show is actually worse than Raw. We have officially, and that's not to say Raw is a great show, but we have officially flipped the script. It used to be the other way around. What happened to SmackDown? I don't know, but it's been a steady decline for the show. Tonight was no better. Two men, meanwhile, who were supposed to go one-on-one on this show tonight, for the right to challenge for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship in September at Clash at the Castle, the big stadium show in Cardiff. It was supposed to be Drew McIntyre against Sheamus, a match that we have seen a lot of times. And I don't complain too much about that because Drew and Sheamus, when they're in there, they always have very good matches, if not excellent matches. I enjoy watching them work, but there does come to a point where, okay, we've seen this already, let's move on. So we were going to have that match tonight, right? That was the big thing that was announced for the show. Who's going to Clash at the Castle? And when this night was over, the answer to that question is we still don't know. We still have no answer as far as who is going to Clash at the Castle, because with about 7 minutes left in the show, they came out for what was supposed to be the main event, and we got the old bait and switch, which was Sheamus gets in the ring, claims to be sick. They replace him with somebody else. They have a short match, and there is no mention made when it's over after McIntyre beats Butch. No mention of Clash at the Castle. So I am left to assume that, in fact, this was not a match that determined who was going to Clash at the Castle, and we're going to have to wait for another week to find out who that's going to be. Not that it makes any difference at all, because you and I both know who's going to Clash at the Castle to challenge for the championship, and it ain't Sheamus. So we're just dragging out the inevitable here. But they did not deliver on the main event that they had promised. Rampage, meanwhile, had what I thought was a really fun opener with Eddie Kingston and Konosuke Takeshita. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And a surprising heel turn by the Ring of Honor World Champion, Jonathan Gresham. There's a lot that we can quibble about the way that Ring of Honor has been presented over these last few months, but I will say that was not a turn of events that I was expecting on this show. That surprised me. And I don't hate it either. So we'll talk about that. Hit that like button if you would be so kind. It does help out the videos on this channel when you do so. Super chats are open. I'll be reading your messages and answering your questions here in just a little bit. You'll see them popping up on your screen, hopefully. Also want to give a shout out to Cassidy Sky Creative, who just became a Sound Off channel member earlier today. And shout out to Kelton Young, who renewed his membership. You guys can go back in the archives and check out our Canadian Stampede main event watch along that we did live right here on the channel on Wednesday. So you'll get that bonus content you can check out when we're done here tonight. There was no Pat McAfee on SmackDown tonight, which also makes the show worse than it normally would be, because Pat is great. In fact, Pat just signed a contract extension, a multi-year contract extension with WWE. They're very fortunate to have him under contract. But he was not on the show tonight. He was out selling the attack by Baron Corbin, which did not air on Money in the Bank. When Money in the Bank went off the air on Saturday, Baron Corbin came out of the crowd and he attacked Pat McAfee. He laid him out on the floor with the End of Days. Pat immediately went over to the T-Mobile Center, the T-Mobile Arena that night with the McMahons for the UFC pay-per-view, and at least had the presence of mind to wear a neck brace. And I'm sure the company didn't even tell him that. I would not be surprised if he did that on his own, because he wanted to at least act like he had an injury that he could sell. And I like that. I appreciate that. So they kept him off the show tonight. Maybe he was doing something else, but I assume it was just to sell the injury. And we moved on then with Corey Graves in place of Pat. SmackDown opened with Roman Reigns coming out. The tribal chief off of his island. He came to work here tonight in Fort Worth, Texas. He came out with the Usos and Paul Heyman. They showed Austin Theory standing on stage as Roman got to the bottom of the ramp before he got into the ring. He had his back turned. And they showed us Theory was on stage in the background holding his Money in the Bank briefcase. And Michael Cole was on commentary freaking out about it and wondering, what is Theory going to do? That was their little cliffhanger going into the first commercial break. So nothing happened. And we went to our first commercial break. The placement of the commercials on this show it confounds me. This week was maybe as bad as it's been in a very long time. But they went to commercial. It was 14 minutes. A full 15 minutes almost went by in this show before Roman Reigns even uttered a single word. When he finally did, Theory was gone, by the way. When they came back from commercial break, there was no Theory. He was not there anymore. There was no mention of him. It was like he was never even there. And Roman Reigns took the mic, said that he was happy to be breathing. It's another day. He woke up this morning. He's just glad to be breathing and healthy and back to work. I would feel great and rested too if I had a long vacation like Roman Reigns has had. But he pointed out that his wise man was looking very nervous. He wanted to know why. He handed the mic over to Paul Heyman. He told Paul, put your hand out, so you can hand the mic over to him. And Heyman's hand, he had the shakes. His hand was shaking. And he took the microphone, and Heyman said, we've got a problem. And that problem is Marina Shafir. No. He said that problem is Brock Lesnar. And he said that this would be the final match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Oh my God! Wait, you know what? Hold on, I can't go on. I gotta hit the bite. I gotta hit the sound bite. We gotta go with the super laugh there. That's funny. We see a lot of comedy and attempted comedy on this show, but man, that was funny. That was a funny line. I believe that like I believe Vince McMahon has been faithful to his wife. Give me a fucking break. Always remember that this company is just one injury away from another Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns match. That's how we got this one. Randy Orton got hurt. He's going to have back surgery. Otherwise, it would have been Roman Reigns against Randy Orton. Brock Lesnar may not even be on the show. We're always one injury away from the inevitable Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match. So Heyman said that when Brock is cornered, when he feels threatened. He is at his most dangerous. He said nobody expected a 24-year-old Brock Lesnar to beat The Rock to win the title. Actually, I think Brock was 25 when he won, but we're just quibbling. We're quibbling over about a month or two now. He said nobody expected him to end The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, but indeed he went in there and did just that. He played up the possibility that Lesnar could end the 600 some odd day reign. It's been 670 or 680, something like that. The record-setting reign here, or reigns, I guess you would say. Record-setting in terms of the last, I don't know, a few decades. He ain't going to come close to Hogan or Bruno. But I guess right now he must have, I would think that Roman already is number 3 behind Hogan, right? Bruno, no one is coming close to Bruno. Nobody is sniffing Bruno's reign, right? Either one of them. Hogan, that first run that he had was about 4 years. Who would be number 3? I guess it would have to be Roman, right? We're not counting the NXT UK title or anything like that. It would have to be Roman Reigns. So he says Brock is a real threat to ending Roman's run with the championships. Heyman said that he's scared because now we have to see a violent Roman Reigns. And he talked about how putting Lesnar down for a 3 count is one thing, but now he has to put him down for a 10 count. Because this is a last man standing match. This is not going to be regular rules. Says it's going to have to be the performance of a lifetime for Roman Reigns to go in there and keep his championships. These Paul Heyman promos, and Paul is great. Paul is still, after all these years, still one of the best talkers in the entire business. Not just the company, but in the entire business. But these Paul Heyman promos now, we've been hearing these promos for a decade, ever since he came back in 2012. And they largely now all sound the same, but he can still pull out a gem every now and then when he has to, just to remind you of who he is and just to remind you of what he can do on the mic. So week to week, the Paul Heyman stuff, again, it's a lot of the same. It's good. It's fine. I still enjoy his work, but there's nothing that really makes you, kind of sit up and say, oh, well, that's a promo that, we're going to be talking about. It's been a while since we've had a Paul Heyman promo like that. But what I liked and what I thought was impressive about what he did here on this show, tonight was one of those nights. These are the moments where Paul Heyman really goes out there and earns his paycheck. He gets paid, I'm sure, very well. You can see why when you see a segment like this tonight. Because not only did he go out there and cut a promo putting over Roman Reigns, he put over Brock Lesnar. He gave you the background on Brock as if he was still Brock's advocate. And he talked about beating The Rock and ending the Undertaker streak, right? And really putting him over as a world beater. He did Brock Lesnar's job for him without Brock even being in the building. He cut promos for 2 people in this match. That's not an easy thing to do. So this was one of the better Heyman promos that we've seen in a very long time. Brock will have a chance to cut his own promo because he is going to be on Raw Monday night. They just announced that Brock Lesnar will be on Raw Monday night. I'm sure he will come out. He'll have his cowboy hat on. He'll talk for about 3.5 minutes, and then he'll go back on the jet and he'll go back to Saskatchewan. But he is going to be on Raw Monday night. So Heyman does this very good promo. And all of a sudden, they cut to Theory, his music. And they play Theory's music, and out he comes with the Money in the Bank briefcase. He jogs down to the ring. He takes a lap around the ring. And then he just walks right back up the ramp onto the stage, and he's smiling, and he's got the briefcase in his hand. He never said a word. Michael Cole said that he was playing mind games with Roman Reigns. Nobody in their right mind actually believed that Austin Theory was going to cash in his Money in the Bank contract tonight. I don't fault them for doing that little cliffhanger tease before the first commercial. That's their way of trying to hook people in. I don't think they hooked too many extra people in because, again, nobody believed that Theory was actually going to cash in his contract tonight. And then you look at what he actually did on this show. First of all, he did nothing in this segment. He jogged. He did a lap around the ring. He did come back out backstage later in the show to cut a promo. And that was it. And I look at this and I go, this is what they flew this guy out for the show for. This is what they flew him out for tonight. It was so important for him to be on the show that this is why they had to have him in the building on SmackDown tonight. What a waste. This promo, by the way, that he cut in the back, he did the promo with Kayla Braxton. It was more or less the same promo he cut on Monday. He talked about going to SummerSlam. He's going to win the United States Championship back from Bobby Lashley. And then he teased cashing in Money in the Bank, either on Roman Reigns or teasing cashing it on Brock Lesnar. When he walked off, Madcap Moss walked into camera view and he said, boy, that's a big briefcase. And he says he bets that he can shove all of it in Theory's mouth. Now, the briefcase, look, you could substitute the briefcase for almost anything, right? But anyway, he was talking about Theory carrying around his thing and how he thinks he could shove it in his mouth. And anyway, they're going to wrestle next week on TV. They're going to have a match. You know, they have these things online. What do they call them? These fanfics? I'm sure there's a fanfic in there somewhere. There's some stan or somebody on Twitter who's going to put together some kind of a fanfic involving some of these people. Yeah, I had someone put one together for me once, by the way. We won't get into that story. The internet is a very weird fucking place. Especially with some of the tweets that have been going around this week. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of tweets, a lot of things to talk about on the podcast on Sunday, episode 764. I don't even have all my notes together in proper order. There's been so much shit going on. There were like a lot of little stories. So I just kind of dumped everything in just one long list. I said, all right, I'll organize things a little bit better today. And then the Wall Street Journal thing dropped. Of course, on a Friday. And so now that blew up all my plans were for Sunday. So you guys are in for a very newsworthy show coming up on Sunday. But anyway, we had Jinder Mahal and Shanky. The skyscraping Shanky. I guess I have to say it the right way. Against the new vicious Viking Raiders. They are still making the announcers say this. It sounds completely unnatural. It's like forcing everybody to say Seth freaking Rollins. Even the announcers have to say it. If he's being interviewed in the back, they have to introduce him as Seth freaking Rollins. Like it literally is his middle name. I like Franklin better, personally. I think they should have stuck with that. So it was Jinder and Shanky against the Vikings. Shanky wanted to have some fun. He wanted to dance. He was immediately tagged out, though. Jinder tagged himself in, and he didn't want none of that silly stuff. We got to be serious here. We got to get down to business. And he was immediately double-teamed by the Viking Raiders. Jinder broke free. Shanky, though, he was dancing at ringside, so Jinder couldn't make the tag. And the Vikings hit a double powerbomb to Jinder for the squash win. After the match, the Vikings, they were continuing to beat down Jinder. New Day interrupted them and admitted that, they kicked their butts last week, but their butts are still here. And now it's time for them to give out a beating. Kofi and Woods rushed the ring, and they were immediately taken out and left laying by Eric and Ivar. Not much to see here. We know that match is going to obviously happen at SummerSlam. And remember what I said a few weeks ago. Right now, they're the new and improved Viking Raiders. Right now, they're the Vicious Vikings. That should be their name, the Vicious Vikings. And they're going to have their match with the New Day at SummerSlam, but this is the New Day, right? So whether it's the Usos, whether it's the Brawling Brutes, you know that any team that feuds with the New Day, they're going to have about 1,000 fucking matches before the feud is over. But when this is over, the Viking Raiders will go right back to where they were before. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. I guarantee you the Vikings know it. So, you guys know what to expect there. Happy Corbin joined Michael Cole. As if it wasn't bad enough that Pat McAfee was gone this week, they sent Happy Corbin out there to join Cole and Graves on commentary. Just as Gunther and Ludwig Borga, Ludwig Kaiser, Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther were on their way to the ring to Gunther's shitty new music. I'm still mourning the loss of Walter's old music from NXT. His music has just gotten progressively worse. Usually you try to improve on things. Like what Tony Khan did with Orange Cassidy. You try to improve on someone's theme music. WWE does the opposite, and they make their music even shittier. So they came to the ring for what was billed as Gunther's Open Challenge. Fans gave Walter the what treatment because they're idiots. Walter said that any champion that steps into the ring without knowing their opponents is a fool. Says they have to earn the opportunity, they have to deserve it before they challenge him for the Intercontinental title. Finally, someone who speaks with sense on this show. That's why I am a Walter fan. He was interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura, who made his way down to the ring while Corbin began celebrating the way that Pat McAfee does. Whenever Nakamura comes out, Corbin he's out there making an ass out of himself. He's standing up on the announce desk. He's doing the air guitar. He's laying on the desk. He's completely freaking out, totally over the top. Nakamura challenged Ludwig to a match right now, here on this show, because Walter said that he wasn't going to just wrestle anybody. They would have to wrestle Ludwig first. And so Shinsuke said, okay, I challenge you then. I challenge you to a match. I take it Walter is probably also not a fan of championship contenders matches. I would think that if Walter were here right now, I think he and I would be simpatico. I think he and I would be on the same page with that. Just another reason to like the guy. So after the break, very quick match. Nakamura got a quick win over Kaiser with the Kinshasa. After the match, Walter was berating Kaiser in the middle of the pretty much sums up my thoughts on I hit the button by accident. It pretty much sums up my thoughts on this show. I could just play that sound effect with every segment on this show, to be honest with you. It would be very accurate. Anyway, after the match, Walter was berating Kaiser. He gave him 3 chops as punishment for losing this match. Hey, that's one way to give somebody an irregular heartbeat. You take 3 straight chops from Walter. And down goes Kaiser. And look, I know some people are going to look at this. They're probably already on Twitter going, oh my God, I can't believe they're already breaking up Gunther and Ludwig. They've only been on TV for barely a couple of months and already they're breaking them up. That's not what this was. They're not breaking, not yet anyway. I know WWE loves to break up teams, but they're not breaking them up right now. That's not what this was. This was Walter laying down the law, making it very clear that he does not tolerate losing. So this win should set Nakamura up for an IC title match with Walter at SummerSlam. Actually, that could be a hell of a match. I would actually say that if that match happens in almost any other promotion, it would probably be better than the match they'll have here in WWE. I don't know why that works that way sometimes. Some of these guys, especially from the indies, they come to WWE, and the matches they have are not necessarily as good as the ones that they might have elsewhere. But I still think these two will go in there at SummerSlam, and they have the potential to have a very good match. At the end of the day, I mean, he might not be the Shinsuke Nakamura from New Japan all those years ago, but he is still Nakamura. And Walter is Walter. I don't think those two are going to go in there and have a bad match. So up next was the first appearance by Liv Morgan, now a member of the SmackDown roster. She has officially been shifted over from Mondays to Fridays, and she is, of course, the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Michael Cole got in the ring to interview Liv. He pointed out that Ronda Rousey had suffered a knee injury in her match with Natalya right before Liv cashed in her Money in the Bank. So you gotta believe, he said, talking like a Mets fan now, you gotta believe that Ronda is going to want her rematch, maybe it's SummerSlam. And, that's all well and good, but, you should also point out the fact that Liv Morgan was in a Money in the Bank ladder match with 6 other women at the beginning of the show. So, I mean, it's not as if she was completely fresh when she went in there and did what she did. Although, I guess Liv probably is the one who did the least in the Money in the Bank match, as I recall. I believe she did the least out of anybody and appeared the least out of anybody in that match. But still, she was in a ladder match at the beginning of the show. So they didn't point that out. But to Michael Cole's point, Liv Morgan said, hey, bring it. She wants a rematch at SummerSlam. If that's the case, bring it. She talked about dreaming for this her entire life and stole a phrase from John Cena by telling everybody to never give up. My gag reflex was almost kicking in here. That brought out Natalya, who said that the only reason Liv is champion right now is because of her. And when the clock strikes midnight after SummerSlam, there's no way in hell that Liv Morgan will still be the SmackDown Women's Champion when she has to get into the ring with a fresh Ronda Rousey. That brought out Ronda Rousey, who walked out gingerly on her injured leg that she was trying to sell. She grabbed the microphone, which has become one of the most terrifying sights in all of pro wrestling whenever Ronda Rousey reaches for a microphone. She again congratulated Morgan on her win. She told her to savor the honeymoon phase right now. While you can, savor the moment, because at SummerSlam, she's going to find out that winning the title is a whole lot easier than defending it. So I guess that makes it official. We never got the official announcement from Adam Pearce or anything, but I guess it's going to be Ronda Rousey challenging Liv Morgan at SummerSlam for the SmackDown Women's Championship. She turned her attention then to Natty. Natty then ambushed Ronda, and Liv ended up throwing Natty out of the ring. When we came back from the break, Ronda was in the ring in her yoga pants and a tank top. She wasn't wearing her usual gear. I won't call it street clothes. I mean, I don't know if she walks around the streets looking like that, but it looked like she was wearing yoga pants or whatever, sweatpants and a tank top. And she was in there for an impromptu match with Natty. This was a rematch from Money in the Bank. It lasted all of 2 minutes before Ronda submitted her with the ankle lock. You know, Natty was really pushing this idea that you don't stand a chance, right? Liv Morgan, you don't stand a chance. You go in there at SummerSlam, you're in there with Ronda Rousey, a fresh Ronda, and I haven't softened her up for you. There's no way you're going to leave with that championship. Let's see what happens over these next couple of weeks, because if they continue to push that narrative that Liv doesn't really have a chance, or she's the real underdog in that match, which she is, going into the match at SummerSlam, if they really focus heavily on that idea of you don't have a chance because this time you're not going to get to attack Ronda after she's already wrestled a match. The more they push that idea, the more I think that we do see Charlotte Flair come back at SummerSlam and cost Ronda Rousey the match. And Liv Morgan will live to fight another day as the SmackDown Women's Champion. I still don't see Liv having a long run. By long, I'm talking 4, 5, 6 months. I don't see it. I don't see it. After she won the title on Saturday, and on the podcast on Sunday, I said she'll be lucky if she gets out of the month of July with that title. She may not make it to August as the SmackDown Women's Champion. If they continue to push this idea, though, I'm starting to believe more and more that that's how this will play out. Charlotte will be involved in some way because she's on her way back any week now. But if anything, she's more likely to cost Ronda the match than she is Liv. So Liv might actually be able to make it into August as the champion. But again, if Liv Morgan was a stock, and far be it for me to sit here and give anybody financial advice, but I would not recommend buying that stock. I would sell. What does Jim Cramer do on his show? He's got all the sound effects. Sell. If you own Liv Morgan stock. That's my advice to all of you. After the break, it was time for Max Dupree and his Maximum Male models to present their 2022 tennis collection. You remember my little rant last week on the stream? You know my thoughts on this whole thing. This week was really no better than what we saw last week. He introduced us to Massey, the former Mace, who is now Massey, who walked out wearing tennis shorts, way too short tennis shorts. This was Shawn Michaels shorts from Judgment Day 2000. He had a towel tied around his neck like he was Rick the Model Martel. He had a racket in his hand, just like Martel. In those Rick Martel vignettes, you think back to Wembley Stadium, SummerSlam, there's Rick Martel. He's got the towel around the neck. He's got the tennis racket in his hand. This is exactly what they lifted this from. And Jim Cornette is probably also on the phone to Stephen P. New as we speak to talk about a case for gimmick infringement. So when the paparazzi were done snapping their photos of Massey, he left. He made way for Mansoor. Here comes Mansoor. He is now Mansoor. And he walked out also wearing tennis shorts, but he had long socks on. Crowd didn't give a shit about any of this. After he was done, they cut back to Dupree in the ring, who plugged a website, MaximumMaleModels.com, which is a real website. I already went to the website. You go, you've got to accept, of course, their terms and their cookies, and they probably steal all your information, which, by the way, is why you should be using ExpressVPN. Use our code. Always protect your privacy on the internet. Don't give WWE your personal information. But when you go to the website and you click all the boxes, you check all the boxes off, there's a form to fill out. You put your name, your personal information in there, and then you can upload and or submit full body shots if you want to possibly become part of the Max Dupree agency, the Maximum Male Models agency. My question is, can I submit a cease and desist for this angle through the website? Because maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll submit a cease and desist. Maybe we could put an end to this, because we all know where this is headed, right? We all know how this is going to end. It's not going to end well. So you may as well just stop now before you get too deep into the weeds on this. Save them a lot of trouble by doing that. My only hope in this, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I hope this thing is a success, because it's not going to be. My only hope is that when they give up on this, sometime in the next 90 days probably, and they will give up on this. When they give up on this, my hope is that he can come out of it, Eli Drake, LA Knights, call him whatever you want. I hope he can come out of this okay. I hope he can survive this when this crashes and burns, and that he could still have a future on SmackDown. That's really my only hope in this. I hope he can make it out of this relatively unscathed. When this ultimately fails and they give up on it and it comes to an end, he deserves better than being booked as a main roster Robert Stone, which is basically what he is at this point. That's all he is. Max Dupree is a main roster Robert Stone, because they don't want Robert Stone on the main roster. And he's better than that. He should have a better future in this company than just being, Robbie E in a suit. So that's my only hope coming out of this angle. We had what Michael Cole, up next, called the Dynamic Duo. Like they're fucking Batman and Robin. We had Aaliyah and Lacey Evans. They were going to be tag team partners in this next match, taking on Shayna Baszler and Shotzi Blackheart. Or at least they were supposed to. That was the idea. That was the plan. So, the Dynamic Duo, they never got off the ground, because Lacey Evans, Leah was already in the ring. Lacey Evans is coming out to make her entrance, and she stops because she's not happy with the reaction that she's getting from the crowd. So she turns around and she walks to the back. Cue up her music again. Out she comes for a second time. Still, she did not find the reaction to be to her satisfaction. So she went back again and she tried it a third time. She came out this time, went to the ring, grabbed the microphone, and she said that she was disgusted by the reaction that she received. She said that she poured her heart and soul out to the fans. She shared her life story with us and all of her struggles and her family issues and the abuse and the neglect, right? With her father and his alcoholism and all the problems that he had and all the stuff that she told us in those vignettes over all those many weeks. This woman poured her heart and soul out to us, right? And she is talking about how she did all of that, and she feels she deserved a better reaction than what she got. The fans chanted, "You suck," at her. The fans were so moved by Lacey Evans' story that she shared with us over all those many weeks that they chanted, "You suck," at Lacey Evans. Here's this woman who pulled herself up by her bootstraps, right? She talked in this promo about how she was an American hero who put her life on the line for the likes of you. And anyway, she ended by telling the fans that they can go to hell. So this was not exactly Bret Hart telling the American wrestling fans coast to coast that they can kiss his ass. This is not some great promo people are going to be talking about and remembering years from now. In fact, there won't be anybody talking about this promo weeks from now. Nobody will be talking about this promo. But it was still better than whatever Ronda Rousey was doing when she had a mic in her hand earlier in the night. So Lacey started to leave. Aaliyah stopped her and acted like she still wanted to team up with her. Hey, we have a match. We're supposed to be partners. And Lacey dropped her with the woman's right. And then she walked out and left her partner high and dry. So there's the heel turn. There's the heel turn. They had to know that airing those vignettes the way that they did, and then she would show up on TV and she would drive home the same exact points that she made already many times in the promo over and over and over. She talked about her story and her father and this and that, but she talked about it so many times. It got so overdone and overplayed that I look back on it now that we've had the heel turn finally here. They had to know that that was going to be the reaction. It had to be by design. Because there were rumors even then. And I talked about it here on the show that, oh my God, all these great babyface promos, and the plan is to make her a fucking heel. It just took them a little longer. They took the scenic route, but we saw the heel turn tonight. So I'm thinking the reason for the way, airing those vignettes over and over and over and having her talk about the same stuff so many times, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but that was likely by design, to get people to resent her. Because, again, they came out and they booed her and they said, "You suck," and there were some what chants. These people were not fans of Lacey Evans. And to their, their defense, it's not as if she's really done anything to get them to cheer for her since she's come back to TV. What has she done? We haven't seen her that many times. She's had a few matches. She was in Money in the Bank. What has Lacey Evans even done that would warrant people, really cheering for her? We haven't seen her do anything since she's come back. So now she's turned heel. Congratulations. We have another heel. Yet another heel on the SmackDown brand. Great. Very good. Not exactly something to get excited about. So it wasn't a terrible promo. I have seen worse on this very show, in fact, but I don't think this is going to really go anywhere. We had a championship contenders match with the Usos taking on Los Lotharios. This match was joined in progress. Again, the pacing and the positioning of certain segments on the show is very weird. They sent the Usos out there for a match that was not even previously announced. But they sent them out there. It was about 9:45. Usually that's about that time that either the main event is already in progress or they're sending the main event out to the ring. And this wasn't the main event. So that felt very weird. The timing was just very bizarre tonight. So Angel and Humberto were in control. That didn't last very long. Usos regained control and ended up winning with the 1D. After the match, Kayla Braxton got in the ring and they showed a replay from Money in the Bank that showed Montez Ford's shoulder coming up well before the referee counted 3 for the final fall, and the Usos retained their tag team titles. Kayla Braxton then said, this is what they booked this woman to say. And I like Kayla. I think Kayla does very well in the role, and I enjoy her work with, Paul Heyman when she scares him, and they have a good rapport together. Kayla Braxton says that basically what the Usos did at Money in the Bank, it was as if they were cheating. It was like cheating. And I couldn't believe what I heard at first. I said, maybe I misheard what she said. And I hit the rewind 15-second button on my YouTube TV. And sure enough, that's what she said. She basically accused the Usos, or said, people can look at that and think that you guys were cheating. I have no idea how she made that leap. They made her look like a fucking idiot with that comment. And Jimmy Uso rightly put her in her place by saying, we didn't cheat. We didn't do anything wrong. It was the referee. He didn't do his job. He basically botched the finish. Usos didn't cheat. How did the Usos cheat? Who is saying that the Usos cheated in Money in the Bank? Why? Because they're heels? That's the referee's fault for being stupid. And being blind and not seeing that the guy's shoulder was up off the mat. So that was just a bizarre comment. She said the two teams would meet again at SummerSlam, and said that there are rumors that there might be a special referee for the tag team title match. And the Usos actually said, well, if they're taking recommendations, and they did the whole Roman Reigns, the thing where he cocks the fist or whatever. So Jimmy was teasing the possibility of Roman Reigns being the special referee at SummerSlam. I think he's going to be a little bit busy. So, we barely get Roman Reigns to show up to work. You think he's going to work twice in one night? Ha! Please. So they said whoever it is, we the two, or they the twos, we the ones, and that's how they ended their promo. I can think of another Samoan who could take that spot as the special referee in the match at SummerSlam. I don't know what sense it would make. I guess it depends on how they introduce him, but there's a certain Samoan down in NXT named Solo Sikoa, who I think would make a fine referee, and he's a babyface down there right now, and they could always introduce him that way, and that would seem kind of unfair, but maybe that's how they're going to introduce him, as a member of the Bloodline. There's been a lot of talk lately that they're considering calling him up any week now. They want Solo Sikoa on the main roster. If he goes to the main roster, you got to link him up with the Bloodline. He's the third Us. How does he not link up with his brothers? Maybe he's going to be the special referee at SummerSlam. Maybe that's their way of introducing him. Or, my other thought, because again, how they explain that would be tough, but my other thought is Sami Zayn. And it doesn't look like Sami Zayn has any matches lined up, but again, Sami Zayn is still the honorary Bloodline member, and he's trying to get in the good graces of Roman Reigns, and that story is still there. That story is still unfinished. So, Solo Sikoa, I throw him out there as the wild card, but I think more realistically, who do I see it being? Sami Zayn, probably. I could see Sami Zayn volunteering. And look, I could see Sami Zayn inadvertently costing the Usos the match. There's two ways I think that match goes at SummerSlam. I think there's a good chance that Sami Zayn is the referee, and either he accidentally cost them the tag team titles and the Street Profits get the win, or we do see the debut of Solo Sikoa. He's not the referee, but he interferes in the match and helps his brothers retain their tag team titles. It's one or the other. But I don't see how the referee spot doesn't go to Sami Zayn. We were supposed to have Drew McIntyre against Sheamus in the main event to determine who would challenge for the top titles at Clash of the Castle. But Sheamus is in the ring, and he starts coughing. And he's talking like, oh, I got something in my throat. And, maybe it's COVID. You could count on one hand the number of times WWE has even said the word COVID on television since COVID became a thing. Now they're using it in a storyline. So I guess they've changed their tune on mentioning COVID. So Sheamus said, oh, I might have COVID. And Michael Cole on commentary is like, well, then cover your mouth if you're going to be coughing all over the place. So he says, I can't compete. I got to get checked. I got to get tested. That means I can't compete. But he had a backup plan, which was having his boy Butch take his place. Now, again, this is 6 or 7 minutes before they were supposed to go off the air. And the match hasn't even started yet. So now, instead of Drew McIntyre against Sheamus for the shot at Clash at the Castle, now it's Drew McIntyre against Butch, with no mention of Clash at the Castle. McIntyre dominated Butch at the beginning. Ridge Holland climbed up on the apron, but Drew knocked him off. And Butch hit a distracted McIntyre, but then he missed a move off the top. McIntyre turned him inside out with a Claymore kick about 90 seconds in, and that was all she wrote. Thanks for coming, Butch. The great run for Butch continues here on SmackDown. The great run for Butch, the great run for Max Dupree. It's going great for those two guys. So Ridge Holland attacked Drew McIntyre after the match. McIntyre dropped him with a Future Shock DDT. Sheamus climbed up onto the apron. They proceeded to repeat the same spot that they already did a few months ago on TV. I believe it was in the lead up to WrestleMania and Drew's match with Corbin, where he picked up the sword and he sliced the top rope. Or maybe it was a WrestleMania. I thought it was on TV. But we just saw this a few months ago where he sliced the top rope in half with his giant sword, and the rope snapped. The only difference this time is fire shot out of the turnbuckles, like he was Demon Kane. I don't know how you explain that one, but they had the pyro shoot out from the turnbuckles, but that's not even the best part of this, right? And again, this show was awful. This show was so fucking bad, but this made me laugh. I'll take my amusement on the show where I can. Drew chops the ring rope, right? We get the Demon Kane pyro from the turnbuckles, but, and I wish I would have taken a still shot of it. The sword bent, and it was very noticeable. So Drew McIntyre has this giant sword, right? And he's supposed to be, oh, I got my giant, like he's fucking He-Man or Thor out there. And he cuts the top rope, and the fucking thing bends. It's like, oh my God, you can't. I mean, I think that in a lot of ways was a great metaphor for this show. When I saw that sword get so flaccid there at the end, I said, that's a great metaphor. There's a message in there. There's a symbolism in there when it comes to SmackDown. This show is abysmal. That's really all I can say about it. And again, I don't really know what else to say. SmackDown has fallen greatly. And you'll still get the idiots who say, oh yeah, well, it does better than AEW, and they're going to do 2 million viewers on Fox. I always think back to this. I always think back to the segment with Vince and Donald Trump when they were in the ring together and they're building up WrestleMania all those years ago. And Vince is sitting there on one side of the table and Trump's sitting there on the other side. And he's talking about how 95% of these people cheer for you. And Vince goes, yeah, but 95% of these people are idiots. And that's how I feel about these morons on social media. Oh, yeah, well, SmackDown's going to get 2 million people. Yeah, well, that's 2 million schmucks, myself included, who watch this show every week. What's your point? That doesn't mean the show is any good. Believe me, there's a lot of TV shows out there who have, great numbers and big audiences and high ratings that are absolute shit, especially on the reality TV side. There's been plenty of shows like that over the years. And plenty of quality shows, good shows, who unfortunately don't have enough of an audience, and they end up getting canceled. I think that was the case many years ago with, what was that show? Sports Night on ABC. Plenty of good shows that, for whatever reason, don't have an audience. So I always it just makes me shake my head whenever that's the first thing that people will come back at you with on Twitter, and they'll say, yeah, but SmackDown did 1.9 million viewers this week, and Dynamite did 850,000, man. These people are fucking brain dead. Oh, I swear, social media has made, I'm torn. Either social media has made people dumber, or social media has simply exposed how dumb people already were. I think it might be a little bit of both. But there's definitely something going on. So, SmackDown next Friday has Austin Theory against Madcap Moss. And again, Madcap is going to try to take Theory's thing and shove it down his throat. And Liv Morgan is going to be in a championship contenders match against Natalya. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. So they announced a championship contenders match next week with Liv Morgan and Natalya. This is the same Natalya who lost to Ronda Rousey less than a week ago at Money in the Bank. She lost to a one-legged woman. On the show tonight, the show that I just reviewed, Natalya had another match with the same one-legged woman and lost again in 2 minutes. Please make it make sense. Why is Natalya in a championship contenders match with Liv Morgan next week? Can you explain this to me? She just lost twice to a one-legged woman. Why is she facing Liv Morgan next week for the right to challenge her for the SmackDown Women's Championship? Are they so devoid of talent on this show that there is nobody else for Liv Morgan to step into the ring with? Xia Li was in a dark match tonight. She lost to Raquel Rodriguez. I'm trying to think of the heels, right? Because maybe they don't want to put a babyface in there against Liv. So they're not going to put Raquel in there. Aaliyah, I mean, give me a fucking break. Aaliyah. Shotzi. Shotzi's a heel. Why not do Liv and Shotzi? Why not do Liv against anybody else except the woman who just lost 2 matches in less than a week? But that's our championship contenders match on TV next week. This show fucking sucks. And that's your SmackDown report. So now we switch over. To TNT. Enough of this. I'm done talking about that show on Fox. I have devoted more than enough of my time to that show. Let's talk about the TNT show. And then we're going to get to your super chats. Rampage opened with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur on commentary. So I guess JR and Tony being on Fridays, I guess this is going to be the new thing going forward now. Eddie Kingston and Konosuke Takeshita were already in the ring for the opener. Yes, thank you. I forgot about Shayna. Baszler. You can even put Shayna Baszler in there with Liv Morgan, right? She's a heel. Why not put her in there? What did I tell you, by the way, about... I'm already breaking my rule about not talking about SmackDown, but remember what I said when Xia Li debuted on SmackDown? Right, after all the big comic book vignettes and everything, which were very well done. Those were very well done, very well put together. But I said, this woman is going to die a death on this show. And she made one appearance, and then weeks went by, and she made another appearance, and then weeks went by, and then they completely changed her whole gimmick, and they turned her from a babyface to a heel. Remember that 20-second backstage promo where she talked about how, I'm tired of protecting other people. I'm no longer the protector. I'm just going to look out for myself. How many appearances, that was in February, how many appearances since that promo has she even made on television? 3, maybe? Now she's already relegated to dark matches. They couldn't even build her up enough for one fucking championship match. That's all they needed to do. Just build her up to be a body to put in there for one program, one championship match. She didn't even make it that far. Don't ever doubt me when I talk about these people. When I talk about Max Dupree and his guys, and I talk about all these other people, and where this is going to go, and they're going to give up on this, and this is going to die a death. Always listen to what I am saying. I know what I am talking about when it comes to this stuff. Here we are now. It's now July. Xia Li, they won't even consider her for a match like this. Anyway, Eddie Kingston and Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita, let's talk about Takeshita. Takeshita continues to impress me. He is actually one of the few people that I could think of when I think of AEW that I really take an interest in watching his matches when I see him on TV. I enjoy watching his work. I think he's very impressive. And it was somebody in the live chat earlier. I think it was the Coog, actually, who's joining us tonight. But he said that Takeshita reminds him of Kenny Omega and how his DDT training maybe has something to do with that. And I think that's spot on, right? I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But there's definitely some Omega influence there. He reminds me of a young Kenny Omega. And that'll make some people's heads explode. But again, I mean that as a compliment. And I think he's got big things in his future. He definitely has a young Omega vibe to me when I see him working in the ring. About midway through, though, Kingston, the straps came down. The straps came down on Eddie Kingston, and they exchanged chops before Kingston caught him with a thumb to the eye. Kingston followed up with a machine gun chops in the corner and a headbutt. Takeshita landed this great blue thunder bomb for a near fall. After a break, Kingston and Takeshita, they were exchanging strikes out on the apron, and Takeshita hit a German suplex on the apron, and then he rolled off the apron with Kingston and tried to give him a German suplex on the floor. Eddie reversed it into an exploder. Both guys made it back in before the count of 10. Inside, Kingston hit a Liger bomb for a near fall. Takeshita avoided the spinning back fist. He got a brain buster for a near fall of his own. Both guys now, they're exchanging forearms and palm strikes on their knees. The crowd is into it. They're making noise, which is not always the case here on these Rampage shows. They fight up to their feet. Kingston hits a half and half, but Takeshita comes back with a lariat. And Kingston finally catches Takeshita with the spinning back fist and just collapses on top of him. He just happened to fall on top of him. It wasn't a case where he was dominant and he was in control. He got lucky because he fell on top of Takeshita. It's like Shawn Michaels super kicking Triple H on that one episode of Raw, and everybody fell on top of him and he pinned him, and everybody thought that he had the championship won. And then Eric Bischoff had to spoil all the fun by showing the replay and showing that Shawn's shoulders were down. But in this case, Eddie got the win. I thought this was a very good opener. It was a great match. I enjoyed this. Later in the show, Kingston called Takeshita the future because he had a backstage promo to set up a match with Chris Jericho. But at the beginning of that promo, he referred to Takeshita as the future. Daniel Garcia is the PWG World Champion, and they had their 19th anniversary event this past weekend. And in the main event, Garcia defended his PWG title against Konosuke Takeshita. When that match was over and Garcia retained his title, and the match was set to be great, they went over 20 minutes and people were raving about it. Garcia went on Twitter after the match and said, "Takeshita is one of the best that I have been in the ring with, maybe the best." Now, Daniel Garcia is even younger than Takeshita. I mean, he hasn't been in the business for very long. But think of the people that Daniel Garcia, even in his short career so far, has been in the ring with. Almost all the top guys in this company. That's why we call him Main Event Garcia. It's ridiculous. All the main events that this guy has had. He's had more main events than Keith Lee or Malachi Black. He's been in there with Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and Jon Moxley and all these different people. So for him to make a comment like that, again, it's impressive. It's a lot of praise going around for Takeshita. And again, I think that, I don't know what his status is contract-wise with AEW. I don't believe he signed to a contract. We never saw the Takeshita is all elite graphic from Tony Khan. But whatever the arrangement is with, I guess it would be with DDT, unless Takeshita is just sort of doing his own thing, they need to sign him to some kind of a deal and get him in there more often. Because he's going to be a big star. Whether it's in Japan or whether it's in the States, he's going to be a big star. So in that same promo, going back to Eddie Kingston, he talked about Chris Jericho after what he had Ty Conti do to Ruby Soho on Dynamite on Wednesday, slamming the car door on her arm. That was a pretty bad segment, but talked about that. Leave it to Eddie to try to really make it feel personal and try to turn something that I didn't think was very good on Wednesday into something that I thought here was very good. And he talked about his Ruby. Again, they need to do a better job, I think, of explaining the relationship and the friendship the two of them have. You hear him talk about it here, you would think that they're fucking married or something. But he said that Jericho has payback coming for what he did and for making him a liar of blood and guts. He doesn't like being made a liar. He promised that he was going to taste Chris Jericho's blood. And Jericho didn't bleed. So therefore that made Eddie Kingston a liar, and that doesn't sit very well with him. He goes, now he's going to bleed because he wants him in a barbed wire match. He said, barbed wire everywhere. He's going to make Chris Jericho bleed. As long as it doesn't explode. As long as the barbed wire doesn't explode, then it should be okay. So that match is going to be a barbed wire death match with the Jericho Appreciation Society suspended in a shark cage above the ring. That's going to be in 2 weeks. They're doing 2 weeks of Fyter Fest. Night 1 is this Wednesday. The barbed wire match is going to be 2 weeks from now. That's week 2 of Fyter Fest on July 20th. But in this promo, Eddie, he didn't scream. He didn't shout. It was almost like a page out of the Jake Roberts playbook. He spoke with a softer tone than we usually hear from him. And it worked. And I thought this was a very good promo. The usual good stuff on the mic from Eddie Kingston. We had the Gates of Agony, members of the Tully Blanchard faction from Ring of Honor, Tully Blanchard Enterprises, team of Toa, Leona, and Khan, taking on Lee Moriarty and the Ring of Honor World Champion, Jonathan Gresham. Gates of Agony cut off Moriarty from making the tag to Gresham. Finally, though, Moriarty had the chance to make a tag, but when he went to go tag in Gresham, Gresham walked away from the corner to go jaw with Tully Blanchard out on the floor, right? So that was the first bad sign there. Leona got a near fall after a Samoan drop, and then he was working a chin lock during the split screen break. Moriarty knocked both heels to the floor a few minutes later, and again, had the chance to crawl over and make the tag to his partner. Try to tag in Jonathan Gresham. He dove into the corner. What happened? Gresham short-armed him on the tag. He pulled his arm back, and there was nobody there to tag for Lee Moriarty. He pulled the Sid and Hogan spot from Saturday night's main event back in '92. I think that's the earliest I can remember that spot. I'm trying to remember if that... I don't think that happened at WrestleMania in the match at WrestleMania 5. I'm trying to think when Strikeforce split up, but I don't think that was a short arm spot. I think it was just a case of Santana accidentally bumped Martel, and I think Martel just threw his hands up and said, "The hell with this," and he walked out. So I think the earliest I can remember the short arm tag spot was probably from that match from Saturday night's main event back in '92. It was Hogan and Sid against Flair and The Undertaker. So anytime I see that, that's the first thing I think of. I call it the Hogan-Sid spot because that was my first time seeing that spot. So he pulled his hand away and Gresham walked down the ring steps and he walks over and he hugs Tully Blanchard. He turned heel on his partner because Moriarty had recently challenged him to a Ring of Honor World title match. So apparently that didn't sit very well with Jonathan Gresham. So he's out there hugging Tully. I did not see that coming. I liked it, though. I liked the turn. And again, it was a turn that I did not see coming. Moriarty tried to fight both the members of the Gates of Agony, but it was a futile effort. He took an inside-out lariat from Khan and then a juice box from Leona, who got the pin to win it for Tully Blanchard Enterprises. The match was whatever. It wasn't much of a match. It was okay. The Gates of Agony, they were impressive looking in this match. I just haven't seen enough of them to really make a determination. But yeah, there's definitely some beef on that team. They're definitely a couple of big guys. But it wasn't even as much a match as it was an angle to set up the heel turn for Jonathan Gresham. So after the match was over, Tony Schiavone interviewed Gresham and Blanchard in the back. He was looking for answers. Yeah, Bobby Heenan always had those great one-liners. I mean, again, a lot of those Bobby Heenan one-liners, the ethnic ones, whether it was, about Santana or Tatanka, Virgil, he would never get away with it today. But he definitely had some funny ones back then. Today, though, forget about it. Bobby Heenan would be canceled. In today's day and age, he would be canceled. He would not be able to be Bobby the Brain. So Gresham wants to explain himself. And he says that he signed his contract back in March. And he's been sitting at home ever since. not doing a whole lot of anything until he got the phone call from Tully Blanchard. Shivani announced that Tony Khan has made Gresham against Moriarty for the Ring of Honor World title official for next week's Rampage. Interesting that they're doing that match next Friday. And they're not saving it for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view because Death Before Dishonor is, I think, the week after that. And so they're going to do this match on TV next week. I guess they don't want the ROH World title, though, to play second fiddle to the ROH TV title, which it absolutely would, because that's the real main event of that pay-per-view. The real main event is Samoa Joe against Jay Lethal. You know, you put Jonathan Gresham on that show against Lee Moriarty. I mean, you're not headlining over Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal with that match. So I think that, as much as anything, is the reason why we're getting it on TV next week. But I like Gresham going heel and linking up with Tully. Anything that can get people talking about the brand is not a bad thing. I don't think it's going to create any real buzz. I mean, this is not exactly a huge heel turn here. Nobody, nobody's going to be talking about this like it's any kind of a big deal. But yeah, anything they could do to get people talking about Ring of Honor, shake things up a little bit, make things a little bit more interesting. That's what Ring of Honor really needs right now, frankly. I think the card for Death Before Dishonor is coming along nicely as far as some of the matches on paper, but they're just, that real buzz and excitement for ROH just, it isn't there right now. But, Tully adding him to his little faction here, it gives them someone credible. It's the Ring of Honor World Champion. And Gresham can go in the ring. Nobody is doubting his skills in the ring. So it adds a credible name to this faction if they want this faction to, be dominant right out of the gate. We had Serena Deeb, another Ring of Honor match here. We had Serena Deeb and the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Mercedes Martinez, taking on Kayla Sparks and Christina Marie. Deeb started the match with Marie, dominated. Martinez made a blind tag, came in with a sliding knee strike. And Martinez hit a forearm to the back of the head before Deeb got a blind tag of her own. Locked on the Serenity Lock for the win. Match only went about 2 minutes. Afterwards, Deeb attacked Martinez and put her in the Serenity Lock, and Martinez immediately began tapping out. And I always think that just looks so goofy. Because if this was in a match, Mercedes is not tapping out instantly, right? Even in the context of this, if she doesn't want to be injured, right? So she'll just tap really quick. What is she tapping for? There's no match. There's no bell. Would she be doing this if this were in a match? No. So what is she feverishly tapping for? I always think that spot looks goofy. They do that in WWE too sometimes. But it looked every bit as goofy to me here. But that's another match that probably is going to be added to the Death Before Dishonor card. So again, you look at that card. Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal for the TV title. Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta for the Pure title. Which, if you're a fan of actual wrestling, you may not think that those, they're big names, but that's going to be a hell of a match. Speaking of a hell of a match, it is now official. The Briscoes and FTR one more time for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. That match alone is probably going to get me to buy that show and do a review on the channel that night. So that's going to be a great match. And I have to assume that the women's title match is going to be added as well. And I think those are the only 4 that look obvious at this point. They have to add at least 2 more. We still have time before the 23rd, so we'll see what else they add to the card. We'll see. There's still some time left. FTR and the Briscoes is going to make that pay-per-view worth the price of admission alone. Guaranteed. Main event was Orange Cassidy against Tony Nese. I was moving to the sweet sounds of Jane as Orange Cassidy made his way down to the ring. Cassidy kept trying to put his hands in his pockets. Nese kept cutting him off. Cassidy finally got his hands in his pockets. Did his usual slate of maneuvers. Nese came back with the back elbow to take control. And Cassidy went to the top. Nese cut him off with an uppercut. And hit a gut buster. Action spilled outside. We went to the final picture-in-picture. Nese had the advantage through the break. And he got a Northern Lights suplex for a 2 count. Nese was trying for a suplex off the top, but Cassidy fought out of it and knocked him to the ground. Smart Mark jumped up on the apron. But Danhausen yanked him down, and before he could curse Mark Sterling, Tony Nese hit him with a basement dropkick. Followed up, though, with the Stundog Millionaire and a Michinoku Driver did Orange Cassidy, but only for a near fall. Cassidy got 2 tilt-a-whirl DDTs and then climbed up to the top rope to hit his diving DDT off the top. So 3 straight DDTs to Tony Nese. And he went for the cover, and Tony Nese kicked out. Somewhere, Jake Roberts is taking a drag of his cigarette. He's sitting there going like this, just shaking his head. What has happened to pro wrestling? The state of the DDT. Nobody respects the DDT anymore. We need more DDT respect in wrestling. That's what we need. You hit 3 of them. 2 tilt-a-whirls and 1 off the top rope, and that's still not enough to win the match. Sterling again jumped up on the apron. Cassidy gave him the weak leg kicks. And then Sterling fell down. He dropped down as if he were injured. He was faking an injury, like he was setting up for a lawsuit or something. Nese caught him with a sit-out pump handle driver, but only got an ear fall. That actually looked, I thought that looked great. That sit-out pump handle maneuver that Nese did looked good, and he probably should have finished it with that move. But the match continued, and Sterling got in the ring with the petition. Remember, he's trying to get people to sign a petition to get Swerve Strickland fired because he can't be trusted. So he had the petition in his hand. He was going to hit the guy with it. He was going to hit Orange Cassidy with it. The referee's attention was diverted. But Danhausen got in the ring and he gave Sterling a low blow. Danhausen then tried to put a curse on Tony Nese. Nese just lunged at him and Danhausen dropped down to the floor. That was enough of a distraction. So when Tony Nese turned around, Cassidy hit the orange punch for the win, and Nese took this great inside-out bump for the punch. You know, Tony Nese is a weird one. He's a weird case to me because there's really nothing exciting or interesting about the guy. He seems like a nice guy. He had a interesting interview with Chris Van Vliet a few months ago. I remember watching the whole thing. I mean, he's a nice guy. I think he's a Long Island guy, actually. So it's not about that, but just when I see him on TV, his character, his personality on TV, there's nothing interesting or exciting about him. There's nothing that really in that regard makes him stand out. Where he stands out, I think he's got a great physique, right? He's got some size. He looks the part, right? He looks like $1 million. So he's got that aspect of it, you know, down pat. But he's missing something, at least on the charisma and the personality side of things. Even in WWE, it felt the same way. You know, he looked great and he could work. It's not even like, oh, he just looks great, but he's got 2 left feet in the ring. No, the guy can work. He's a very good worker. He can bump. You saw that at the end of this match, right? He could take great bumps. But in WWE, it just felt like he could never break through to that next level. And he was always treated like the underneath guy, not even like mid-card. He was the underneath guy. And he goes to AEW, and I mean, good, they gave him an opportunity here. They put him with Smart Mark Sterling, but he's in the same role that he was in WWE. It's like he has settled back into that undercard role where his job is to just go in there and make other people look good and never really be the one to get pushed. But I think a lot of that just boils down to the lack of any real character and anything particularly exciting about him on TV. I mean, it's the same problem he suffered from in WWE. If anything, now it's worse in AEW because this roster is so stacked and there's so few spots that unless you are one of those really top guys or you have some kind of natural connection to the crowd and natural charisma about you, you're just not going to break through. So I don't really see anything changing for him. His work has always been good. It's just I don't, you know, I don't see that just changing anytime in the near future. I mean, look at who he was in the ring with tonight. You know, you stand him next to Orange Cassidy and Danhausen and ask somebody who isn't a wrestling fan, hey, who do you think of these 3? Which one's the wrestler? Who do you think they're going to pick? Right? He looks the part. And yet Orange Cassidy and Danhausen are 5 times more over than he is. They always get a reaction when they come out. The crowd always reacts. They love these two. Nice is just sort of always stuck in this role. But anyway, that was Rampage tonight. That's my thoughts on that. Next Friday, the Ring of Honor World Championship will be on the line. Jonathan Gresham is going to defend against Lee Moriarty. We have the Lucha Brothers taking on Private Party. They live. They are still alive. They are among the living. I'm shocked. I don't know where they've been. I don't know if there was an injury or what. The Private Party is finally back. And the Gun Club will talk about their turn on the Acclaimed. Rest in peace. The Acclaimed and the Gun Club. They are no more after the big turn on Dynamite Wednesday night. So they will explain their actions next week. Let's take a look at the Twitter polls here. SmackDown, 24% thumbs up. 75% of you have given this show a thumbs down. Very well deserved. Rampage gets almost 79% thumbs up, 21% thumbs down. At Solomonster is the place to go there. You already knew that, right? Because you tune into the streams every week. You guys are smart. You guys know. You know where to go. Follow me on social media. So I wanted to bring back the summer theme here in the beach ball because I realized we are now well into July. It is summertime. It was 84 degrees here in New York today. So why not bust out the sand and the beach ball and the beach music? Before you know it, summer's going to be over and it's going to be fall. There's going to be snow on the ground in the winter. So let's enjoy it while we can. All right, let's take a look at your super chats here. Again, if you have comments or questions, you want to support the stream, I will read your messages here. We'll hang out for a little bit. C Moonsalt. Bearwolf, thank you for the update. I was going to ask, how many likes do we got? We're only over 200, but we have a hell of a lot more than 200 people in here watching, so hit that like button if you have not already done so. Let's see if we can get to it at least 300. My God. That's still less than half of the live audience that we have right now. But surely, before we get out of here, we could at least do 300, maybe even 350. C Moonsalt, quick question. How would you book a WWE AEW show? Well, that's a hell of a question to ask me here. How would I book? I'm not even sure what you mean by that. How would I book? I'm not going to book out the card. I have no idea what I would do for the card, but yeah, you want to make it fair. You want to have some of the AEW talent shine and go over, and you want to have some of the WWE talent shine and go over, and I would book it very similar to the way that Tony Khan and Gato booked the Forbidden Door show. I think it worked out very well. I think it was an excellent show. You guys know my thoughts on that. I think it's the show of the year so far. I would want to do a better job of building up some of the matches in terms of some of the stories behind them. I would want more than a month to build that show up. I would build it up hopefully over a period of a few months. But beyond that, yeah, I don't know. As far as a card and some of the matches, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Tuxedo T. Servo, thank you for the 5. More Vince payoffs. Doubt anyone is surprised, but I wonder if the WWE Board of Directors is scared of what else they'll find. Well, I guarantee you they've already found out stuff that we still don't know about yet. But I'll have a lot more to say about that on Sunday. Lakers Pats won. Lacey Big Show Evans and Vince McMahon. Naif Al-Safar, thank you for the double super chat. Naif, I hope you're doing well, you in Turkey. GCC 305. Solomonster, love you, brother, and your wrestling reviews give me life. However, I'm from Miami, and the Marlins is my team. 5-2 Marlins, go fish. Yeah, I used to play Go Fish as a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. And you may have won tonight, but I would ask you to go to MLB.com. If you'll do me this favor, go to MLB.com and just take a gander at the standings in the National League East and get back to me on who's in first place. Just curious. Don Juan, does Vince get a refund since they didn't hush? That's not how this works. Dr. Scorpio, and to no one's surprise, Lacey turned heel. And just like Veer, Charlotte is coming soon. Oh, yes, she is. Charlotte is coming. It's only a matter of time. Dr. Scorpio, Shinsuke versus Ludwig was technically a championship contenders without the champion being in the match. I call that a creative improvement. That's why I endorsed Walter in that match. I said, this man actually speaks sense. One of the few people on this show who actually makes sense when he speaks. ADTR 210. What's going on, ADTR? Thank you for the 5. SmackDown was boring tonight. Also, I got the Mox audiobook from your link. Can't wait to listen to it. Have a great stream, Solomonster. Well, thank you, ADTR. Enjoy your book. I've gotten a few tweets from people who thanked me and said they got 2 books because they didn't I guess they were Prime members. And when you use my link and you sign up for the trial, I think when you're a Prime member, you actually get 2 free books. So people may not be aware. I wasn't aware of that until a few weeks ago when people said, hey, thanks for the 2 books. I said 2 books. I wasn't aware of that. So I don't know if you're a Prime member or not. You might want to check on that, though. But enjoy that book. People have been saying good things about it. Always entertaining. And by the way, that Audible link, if you're wondering what's the link, all that stuff is down in the description down below. You can get the link down there. Get yourself a free audiobook. Always entertaining TV. With the $9.99. Unrelated, I listened to your Cena retrospective last week, and although I'm not sure you pay attention to most of them, what is your favorite Cena attire or color scheme that he has worn? Yeah, I don't really care, honestly, but if I had to pick one that I liked the most, I don't know. I mean, blue is my favorite color. That's why we got blue tonight. You see the blue in the background? That's why I like the SmackDown streams. We get to go blue. So probably blue. Didn't he do like blue and yellow maybe at some point? Or maybe it was, I don't know. It was blue and something. Probably blue. I'll go with blue. My eyes are blue. I don't know if you could tell here on the stream. I got the blue eyes. Shin Akuma. Would you ever do more podcast interviews? The Justin Roberts episode and the Hardcore Holly ones were great. Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't done any interviews in a while. I enjoyed doing them, and I've done dozens of interviews. I mean, those 2 are just the tip of the iceberg. Tony Schiavone, I got him back when he first signed with MLW. He was first making his comeback, and that was a great one too. Just being able to shoot the shit with him and of course his history in the business. Yeah, I've done a whole bunch of them. So yeah, I'm sure at some point there'll be. There's so many other people now who were doing interviews, and I don't know. It would have to be a good one that would come along, and if somebody were interested and they were, I thought, a big enough or an interesting enough name, then you never know. You might do more. Should interview Brett? Oh, of course I'd love to. I don't think that's going to happen, but never say never. Dr. Scorpio, playing another one bites the dust in the background while this Maximum Male Model segment was happening. This made this segment watchable, he said. Sean Longworth with the $10 super chat. Had the night off because of Lyme disease, which I got early. Check yourself. First time seeing Rampage. It really is the fastest hour of wrestling. We all know who the tag team goats are. Very sorry to hear about that Lyme disease diagnosis. I had a cousin who had Lyme disease, and it was bad. He wasn't right for, I mean, probably well over a year. So that's yeah. If you don't get that checked and taken care of, that's very serious stuff. Yukio rules. I know this is random, but what happened to Zelina Vega? I believe she may have had some kind of an injury, but she is, I believe, on her way back soon. I think it may have been injury related or something along those lines. That's why she was taken off TV. By the way, this is not a plain, somebody said this is a plain red shirt tonight. No, it's not. This is not. There is a message on it. This is a Vespa shirt. Anti-M Bishop 07, Evening Solomonster. SmackDown is so bad that it makes the Heroes of Wrestling 99 pay-per-view look like a 5-star show every Friday night. Rampage was good. Food Hive. Hey guys, love this chat and love this stream. What's going on, Food Hive? Spicy dried chicken. It needs to be said the NXT and New Japan Tag Team division is better than the AEW Tag Team division. No, it's not. No, it's not. Great tag team talent in AEW, yes. Structure, no. All Elite needs tag team competition like a Dusty Rhodes tag team tournament type and a World Tag League. Hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me that the NXT tag team division is better than the AEW tag? You're not seriously trying to convince me of this. I mean, I had some respect for you, but I know that you're not trying to convince me that NXT has the better tag team division than AEW does. I know you can't possibly be trying to convince me of this. He says the Young Bucks and FTR are undeniably great tag teams. I can't hate them. Too much greatness can be overkill booking. AEW's new term is overkill booking. Well, you could certainly make that point, and thank you for the super chats, of course, but you lost me on the NXT tag team division being better than the AEW tag team. That is one of your worst takes, I think, that I have heard you say here on these streams. Shinakuma, I was one of the fools who did the Packy Chip Challenge, let alone at work. And what happened? You got to tell me how it turned out. KD with the $20. What's going on, KD? I am stunned when you say Miro elevated the TNT title. He had 8 matches, all jobbers aside from Eddie Kingston. So how exactly did Miro elevate that title? It wasn't about elevating as much as it was just he, by virtue of holding it, made it feel more important. He was this gatekeeper. Yeah, he had a lot of matches with people like Fuego and people like that. I mean, you say 8, I'll take your word for it that he had 8 matches. But when Miro had that TNT title, it felt to me like it was the beginning of a longer run that he could have and should have been on. And then he lost the title, I think, was it to Sammy, I think, right? So then he lost the title to Sammy Guevara. And I remember him and Sammy actually having a really good match, but that was, I think, when he dropped the title. So his run was not nearly as good as it could have been. But when Scorpio Sky got the belt and he started going back and forth with it with Sammy and all that, it just completely took the wind out of the sails of that championship to where I didn't have any interest in even seeing the TNT title defended on TV. When Miro was the champion, even if he was in there with somebody who was considered an enhancement guy, let's say, right? Or not like a big name. And maybe there was a match with Dustin. I feel like he maybe wrestled Dustin Rhodes. But I was interested in his matches. Maybe it had more to do with his character at the time, the whole Redeemer thing. I know that I had more interest in watching the TNT title defended when Miro had it than I ever did in the last few months when it was bouncing back and forth between Sammy and Scorpio. So the fact that most of his defenses may have been against people that didn't really have a big name, to me that didn't diminish the value that he brought to that championship. That's why I feel the way I feel. The TNT title even still then felt like a bigger deal than it does now. Now that Wardlow has the title, maybe that'll start to change. Or they could put Wardlow in there and he could do the exact same thing that Miro did, and they can have Wardlow mowing down a bunch of job guys. You know, we'll see. We'll see what they do with this. They've got to try to keep things interesting, give him some fresh faces to get in the ring with. But sometimes it's just the feeling that you have. And when Miro the Redeemer would come out with that TNT title, it felt like a much bigger deal than it did just a few months later. It's just how I feel. GCC 305. Yeah, Mets in first. Again, I'm a Marlins fan, so I'll take what I can get. Also got 2 free audio wrestling books using your link. Thanks again, good brother. There you go. See, another Prime member getting 2 free books. And I'm just razzing you on the Marlins. Yeah, I feel like the Mets were a lot further ahead than they are now. I think they're only about 3 or 3.5 games up in the division, which is still good, but this is around that time of the season where I, kind of cross my fingers and hope that we don't get any more people out injured. I feel like every one of our pitchers is out injured. It's just, the pitching situation is just ridiculous. Thunder Knight, imagine being CM Punk when he found out about what happened with Benoit, considering he was supposed to work with him at the pay-per-view that weekend. Well, I mean, he was pretty broken up when they did that sit-down interview with him, when they interviewed all the people on the tribute show. They gave him a tribute show before they realized what had happened. Yeah, I mean, how do you not get affected by that? It's got to freak you out. And I know that was a match that he was really looking forward to. I don't know that they had ever had a match before that. So I'm sure that he was, broken up about not being able to wrestle Benoit until he found out what happened. And then I think it was more just, holy shit, I almost got in the ring with this guy. Benoit was trying to book flights to the pay-per-view that week. After he had murdered his family. He was still trying to get a flight in. It might have been to Houston or somewhere in Texas, I think, maybe. Wherever the pay-per-view was. He was still, they found evidence, I think, on his computer or whatever. He was trying to see if he can still fly in. Imagine if he would have flown in to that pay-per-view and had the match with CM Punk. How would Punk feel then? If Punk got to wrestle Benoit and was like, oh man, I got to wrestle Benoit and I had one of the best matches of my career. And then after the fact, he finds out what Benoit had already done. He was in the ring with him after it had already happened. Imagine that. How much worse that would have been. I mean, it's pretty scary to think about. King Bling Blah, can you do a vlog for the next Hog show? Would love to see it. I don't know. Usually those days are very hectic. But we'll see. We'll see. Remind me when we get a little bit closer. I would definitely... You know what? That's not a bad idea, actually. I would definitely consider that. Maybe. Maybe we will. We'll see. Boobah with the $4.99. I wonder what they'll find out about Vince and WWE. Also, with John Gruden suing the NFL, we will find out some crazy stuff about Roger Goodell and others. Well, the discovery phase of lawsuits always yields some very interesting information. Usually discovery is the phase that people like to avoid, which is why a lot of lawsuits get settled out of court before they even get to that phase. Yeah, again, some people don't realize that Benoit, the belief is that Benoit was still looking into the possibility of flying out and not missing that pay-per-view, and the stuff had already happened. You know, the bodies were already in the house, and this guy's thinking about going and flying out to make sure he can make his shot. It's like, holy shit. I don't even want to think about that. Food Hive just dropped a $1.99 super chat. What was for dinner? He says, cereal or Chinese? Well, it's Friday, so it is a Chinese night. That's why Tuesdays and Fridays are generally my favorite time of the week. You get to do Chinese. So nice, you got to do it twice. Spicy dried chicken. Until AEW can put on an annual tag team tournament or league on their program, I still believe the NXT tag team division is better. So your point is that because AEW, so New Japan has the World Tag League. I get that. But your point is because AEW does not have a tag team tournament of their own, that therefore makes the division inferior to NXT because NXT has a Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. You do realize that when WWE does, and for the women too, when they do the Dusty Classic, a lot of those teams are makeshift tag teams. So in a lot of those cases, they're not even real teams. They're just putting teams together. In fact, I think the first team that won the first ever Dusty Classic, wasn't it Samoa Joe and Finn Balor? Again, so I'm not sure how you come to that conclusion just because that's what it sounds like to me. That seems to be the bone of contention there. I think AEW should do something like that, but I still feel like even without it, they have the better tag team division. New Japan, you can make that argument. I don't think you can make that argument for NXT. And they have a few good teams down there. Pretty Deadly is actually a pretty good team. I think Pretty Deadly, they want to make this stupid gimmick work. They probably fit in perfectly with the Max Dupree faction on SmackDown. Moo. So they have a few good teams, but you and I are going to have to disagree. Oh, I heard the moo. It's the moo. It's JM with the $100 super chat bomb. JM, what is going on? My God, a super chat bomb so big that even the Raw GM is chiming in. The Raw GM has a message here. Let me open this message. I've been sent an email by the anonymous Raw general manager. And let's see here. Oh, now we can't read that on the air. It looks like it's from John Laurinaitis. It was meant for one of the female superstars. We won't read that. But JM, thank you, buddy. Dropping a $100 bomb. I'm just getting in, so I'll have to replay the review. Hope you're feeling 100%, brother. I'm feeling much better. I would say I'm probably 98% there. I still have a tickle in my throat. We're not quite over the cough yet, but I am obviously, you could just hear it in my voice. I'm sounding and feeling much better, so I thank you for that. And I'm feeling much better now after that $100 super chat bomb. So thank you, JM. Winter's Paw. Oh, wait, hold on. We missed a few. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody here. Food Hive. Dried chicken has no taste. No soup for you. There you go. Food Hive says no soup for you for that NXT comment. Winter's Paw with the 10 spot. The only good thing about Sasha leaving WWE means that her crazy stans can leave us alone during the shows. They'll be Tony Khan's problem now, hopefully. He can take Charlotte as well. No confirmation yet about Sasha, but it looks like she's as good as gone. Her attorneys have been working on her release for a few weeks now. It ain't official until WWE makes it official, but it's not looking good. If you're someone hoping that Sasha Banks stays in WWE, I think you're going to be very disappointed. I still would be very surprised, though, if Naomi doesn't stay. That would surprise me. KD, if you were at the AEW scrum, my apologies. What's the one question you would have asked Mr. Tony Khan? At the media scrum for Forbidden Door, I assume you are referring to. I had a question. I was going to ask if, because somebody asked me a similar question, and now I can't remember what it was. I think it had something to do with, actually, it might have had something to do with their testing policy, because he had made a comment that they have a testing policy. I think it was about Jeff Hardy. He was talking about Jeff Hardy. And he said something about there being a testing policy, but I don't believe he's ever shared details about exactly what that policy is, what they test for. That's probably a question I would have asked. Probably one of the reasons why I would probably not be welcome back to one of those scrums, but I think that was the question I was thinking of. Because to me, the scrums, it's less of a media scrum, and it's more I don't know. I watch them and I like that AEW does that. And I wish WWE would do something like that. But I think when people think of media scrums, they do think of tougher questions being asked. And it doesn't have to be confrontational, but there is a lack, I think, of quality questions at those things. So it does come off more like a fan event than an actual press scrum, if we're being perfectly honest. So, the intention would not be to kind of put them on the spot and make them uncomfortable and ask, tough questions or negative questions. But I think that's a perfectly legitimate question. And if Tony Khan has talked about this, then I'd love for somebody to point me in the direction of what he said. But, if they have a testing policy, I'm curious. WWE is very open about what they test for, whether it's drugs, concussions, all this stuff. I mean, it's nice that they have one. That's great. But, what is it? And if he doesn't want to talk about it, because I guess he doesn't have to, why? Why not? What's so secretive about it? In the NFL and the sports leagues and in WWE, we know the kind of stuff they test for. But after the Jeff Hardy thing, it was a legitimate question that people had, and we still really don't have all those answers. So it's just something I would be curious about. Yeah, that's true. Bliss fan, WWE did scrums for Cody, and I like that. They sent Cody out there. Cody was doing interviews. They really made his signing feel like a major league big deal. I don't think they do enough of that, and I wish they would do more of it. Food Hive. Did the message read penis power? No, it didn't say penis power, but it was very clear that it came from Johnny Ace. Bob the Builder, where do you see Ospreay and Jay White going when their contracts expire? Who is the next AEW guy to go to WWE? Who knows? It's only a matter of time. It's not just all going to swing in one direction. I don't think it'll be any of the EVPs. I think Cody will be the only EVP that goes there anytime in the near future. But, you're going to get to a point where somebody is not happy about their position or not happy about the time or lack of time they're getting on TV. And, they're going to look and say, well, maybe, again, if Cody continues to be treated very well by WWE, it's going to make it more enticing. It could be MJF. I think MJF is going to end up being the AEW World Champion, but nobody really knows what's going on between the two sides. We know his contract isn't up until the beginning of January of 2024, so it's not anything that's going to happen soon. Maybe he ends up going to WWE at that point. Trying to think of any AEW originals that I could see being next in line to go. Wardlow has made it pretty clear he's very happy with the push he's been getting and how AEW has helped build him up as a star so far. And his progression is going well. There's really no reason for him to go anywhere right now. But you never say never. Just because Wardlow is happy now doesn't mean in 2 years he's not going to be unhappy about something. WWE makes him a big enough offer. Anybody could jump. It could be anybody. It could be literally anybody. And Jericho, Jericho's not an EVP. Jericho, I could definitely see Jericho wanting to get one last run in WWE before he hangs it up. So it could be MJF, it could be Jericho. There'll definitely be a big name that goes over. Hangman Page, not an EVP, but big name in that company. I could see him being a possibility as well. Randy Bobandy, does AEW and WWE all test for weed, or do they let that pass now? There was a change in the WWE policy fairly recently. I don't think they test for weed anymore, or if they do, they don't punish people for it. So I think WWE has gotten better about that. AEW, we have no idea. They haven't said. It's a secret. We don't know. AKG, what's going on? Thank you for the $5. How successful would an AEW against WWE Forbidden Door show be? And if Vince gets the boot, do you see that being a real thing? No. As long as Vince is there, it will not happen. If Vince resigns, which he should, I'm not spoiling much. I pretty much said as much on Twitter. I'll talk about the whole situation on Sunday. Vince McMahon absolutely should step down and step aside for good, not just temporarily, because at this point, this is just ridiculous. And, all these people talking about how, well, innocent until proven guilty. Nobody is accusing Vince McMahon of a felony. I mean, we don't know what the board might come up with. Who knows? Maybe there'll be accusations that he actually committed some kind of a crime. We're not talking about a crime. We're not talking about Vince McMahon going to jail. We're talking about the chairman and CEO of a company using his power and influence and having these, if you could even call them relationships, with these women, with these people, and conducting himself in a way that a chairman and CEO of a company should not conduct themselves. Again, I saw so many dumb tweets in reply to some of the stuff that I was saying today. And a lot of these people are trolls because you just look at their profile and But there were a few people who weren't, I would say, trolls, but they didn't follow me. And so maybe they haven't followed, what I've been saying about this. And they don't know my opinions on the whole story. But so many dumb takes on Twitter today in response to this story. What's the big deal if he used his own money? Who cares? Like these are real opinions that people have. I mean, you talk about missing the point, flying right over your head, but I think it goes to the mindset of a lot of people who really just don't see anything wrong. They don't see anything wrong with the idea that Vince McMahon may have had some kind of a relationship with one of the divas many years ago. And they allegedly, may have had sex or oral sex or whatever it is. And in their mind, it's like, so what? Right? Oh, he didn't commit a crime. So what? What's the big deal? Or he paid them off. So what? As long as it's his money and not company money. They don't see anything wrong with any of this. $12 million that we know about in hush money. Oh, not a big deal. Nothing to see here. Right? That's the problem. Some people just don't see anything wrong with any of this. And I hope that none of these people run their own company. It's scary to think that some of these people might actually run their own business and might turn a blind eye to this sort of thing, or they might encourage it. They might be doing it themselves. It's called abuse of power. And with WWE being a giant publicly traded company the way they are right now, with all these sponsors and network partners and whatnot, it is an embarrassing black eye for a company that this company does not need. That's the other issue that people are sort of ignoring here. It has nothing to do with whether or not Vince committed a crime. Nobody's putting him on trial. This is not Law and Order. Okay, Ben Stone is not trying to prosecute Vince McMahon. So shut the fuck up with that stuff. Look at the bigger picture here. You can't understand why Vince McMahon should step away? Why this is completely embarrassing for this company? Why this could potentially have an effect on their next round of television negotiations? Why this could have an effect on someone like John Cena or The Rock not wanting to come back for a match because maybe they or their people look at this and go, you know what, the situation is too toxic. And you know what, we're going to back away from this. Maybe now is not the time for you to come back and have that big comeback match. The repercussions of this are far-reaching. It could have a very big negative effect on this company. So if he actually does care about this company, he would do the right thing and step aside. And all the people that are making excuses for him, they're just as scummy as he is. Peas in a pod. You people belong together. Unbelievable to me that people don't see what the real broader issue is with his behavior in this situation. They just look at it very black and white. No crime was committed, or it's his money, so who cares? Everything's fine. So many dumb fucking takes on social media today. I have to put people in their place on Sunday. We'll talk about this on Sunday. There's more to the story than just that. Now you got me all worked up over this now. Now I wish it was Sunday. I wish it was Sunday morning now so I can get into the whole thing. R Hoop, who's going to take the belts off the Bloodline? Drew McIntyre's looking pretty good right now for Clash at the Castle. And Street Profits could be them. If Sami Zayn is the referee for that match, I would probably put my money on the Street Profits. Bob the Builder. Forgot my Ospreay and Jay White question. Yes. Ospreay and Jay White. Ospreay, I think, he's pretty committed to New Japan. He moved to Japan. He always wanted, I think, to become the guy in Japan. He won the IWGP World Heavyweight title and then had to vacate it because of the neck injury, and he never really had a proper run with it. I don't think he's going to be fully satisfied until he does. When the time comes, though, that he does leave New Japan, AEW would seem to be the likely destination, right? He only got a taste of it at Forbidden Door. He had the best match on the show. You know, Ospreay said the other day, we stole the show. I agree, 100%. There's no lies detected in what he said. He and Orange Cassidy had the match of the night at Forbidden Door. And he's in that building in the United Center. The place is rocking, right? Everyone's on their feet. He got a taste of what it could be like for him in AEW. So I think when the time eventually comes for him to transition over to the US, I would expect him in AEW before I ever see him in WWE. Who's gonna go first? I think Jay White would probably. I would see Jay White leaving and maybe coming over before Will Ospreay would. Joseph Brooks. Sorry to have you fantasy book here, but if you booked a WCW against WWE Super Show, what are your 5 big-time matches that you would have been the main attractions for the show? I'll throw a few at you. I don't like these top. What are your 5 or 10? I don't like being tied down to a number. But, you know, back in the day, what the big matches would have been, Austin against Goldberg, you know, when both those guys were white hot, that would have been one of the big, if not the biggest match. Undertaker and Sting, even then. I mean, people didn't really talk about it as much until years later, but even, you know, late 90s, 2000-ish, Undertaker and Sting, when Undertaker was still doing the Lord of Darkness stuff, not the biker stuff, Undertaker and Sting would have been a big match to do. So let's say if Austin and Goldberg are tied up, Undertaker and Sting are tied up. As far as what the other matches would be, you know, before Savage really wrecked his knee, or knees, I should say, he did that really dumb bump off the top of that tall cage. Might have been Halloween Havoc, but I feel like we missed out by not getting a Rock Randy Savage match. I think the Rock and the Macho Man would have been a big match. Again, Savage physically was not at his physical prime anymore at that point. I think those are 3 pretty big matches. You know, look, Rock and DDP. I know that's the match DDP wanted to do when he came into WWE. People's Champ against People's Champ. People forget DDP was self-made. He was fucking over as shit during those NWO days in WCW. You know, he really was their people's champion in that company. Rock and DDP would have been a big one too. So either one of those, I think. Rock and Savage or Rock and DDP. Undertaker and Sting, Austin and Goldberg. Those probably would have been the big 3, I think. EJ Slamp, who do you think will be the Sting, Undertaker, Briscoes, or Tommy Dreamer of AEW? A guy who is so loyal, he will never consider leaving. My pick is Darby. Yeah, Darby does not want to go to WWE. Darby ain't going to WWE. So, Darby, absolutely. Wardlow could be that guy. I was just talking about Wardlow. You know, again, anything can happen, but he has said that he wants to be a lifer in AEW, and maybe he will be. So Wardlow and Darby are probably 2 of those guys I could see maybe being an AEW lifer. Food Hive, can we see your dumb tweet / message segment like RSPW? So like a visual sad tweet, mean tweets, maybe. I know other people already do that gimmick, but there's plenty of content to go around there. Actually, I'll do the next RSPW before I do that. Spicy Dried Chicken, hit that like button. I still got love for you. Thank you, Spicy, for the reminder. Yes, hit that like button. Bully the Clown. Bully the Clown, everybody. Take a look with his big red nose. JM coming in hot again with the $30 super chat. I'll get to you here in a second. He loves that Bully the Clown, man. Bully the Clown always jumping through flaming hoops. He's banging the bearded lady in the truck in the back. You have no idea some of the stuff that I see at that circus that Bully the Clown is part of. The stuff that I see that the other people don't. Bully banging the bearded lady is only the tip of the iceberg. You would be appalled if I told you what I saw backstage at this circus. KG, are we finally seeing the end of Vince, or is it just another day in Stamford? Right now, it's just another day in Stamford, but today made it, I think, a lot harder to justify him sticking around. A lot harder. How do you justify that? Other CEOs of bigger companies that are doing great business have fallen for less. How does the board justify Vince staying on in his role when this investigation is over? Even just what we know so far, without the investigation even being done. How do you justify that? Now, Vince may kick and scream. He may not want to go. But if you're the board, how do you not recommend that he resign? He's got to go. Will he go? That's the $1 million question. Should he go? 100% absolutely. I could think of a lot of reasons why he should go. Creative isn't even the most important one, but creative is certainly part of it. Crash with the $5. When Roman loses the title, how long do you think they should wait to give him another shot? And when do you think he should actually win the title again? Food Hive, I didn't miss yours. I'm going to get to yours. We're already talking about Roman getting the belt back? Are you, Crash, are you really already thinking about Roman getting the belt back? He hasn't even lost them yet. It should be a while. Once he loses the championship, he's gonna have it for 700 plus days. Who knows? Maybe they'll keep him on him until WrestleMania next year. It could end up being 1,000 days. When he loses the championships, he should not be champion again for a long time. I'm not even sure what his schedule is going to be at that point. And when I say a long time, I'm talking 6 months to a year. You're going to have somebody hold the title for that long, lose it, and then win it back, 2 months later? What's the point of that? Eventually, Orton's going to come back. Cody's going to come back. Maybe there'll be some new call-ups from NXT, Braun Breaker or somebody they could start building up. And they'll have other people that they could start pushing and elevating to that spot. And Roman can sort of assume the ceremonial top star role that Brock and Cena and people like that have had, where he doesn't even necessarily need the title. We got Food Hive said, and can we get the Chris Benoit apologists next? Yeah, they're a whole other class of people. Boy, if I ever did like a rant show, boy, probably would end up being one of the longest shows that I've ever done. Near, shout out to Near. Here are 6 shekels. That's the currency in Israel. Yes, I'm aware that shekels are the currency in Israel. And the ruble is in Russia. And you got the peso and the ruble and the shekel. And what's the currency in... I'm trying to think when I was in Colombia, what the currency was. I don't remember. But thank you, Near. Thank you for those shekels. I appreciate it. JM with the $30 Bully the Clown, and that is why I don't do social media. You are a jam-up guy for dealing with it. Let me tell you something. You're probably a lot happier not being on social media. There are days where I wish I never even learned what social media was. It's a great tool. It's a great promotional tool, certainly for the podcast, but Sometimes you just got to step away. When people step away or they deactivate their account, Shotzi did that this week. I totally get it. I totally understand it. Joseph Brooks, who in your opinion was Mr. NXT? Tommaso Ciampa or Johnny Gargano? Mr. NXT. I look at Johnny Gargano, I think more so as Mr. NXT, but I think you could pick either one of them. I don't know who was there longer. Might have been there around the same period of time. But I think of Gargano, honestly, when I think of Mr. NXT. I think he's probably the first person I think of. Yeah, I'd probably go with Johnny. Spicy with the $2. Next Friday, I will reveal my G1 Climax 32 winner. Oh, I can't wait. I remember the last time you revealed your picks for the G1, he named like 8 different people. So that's always fun. That's always fun. If I named half the bracket, I bet you I would end up picking the winner too. So you're going to have to narrow it down. One person. Maybe one person and one dark horse. That's it. You can't pick more than that. JM with the 5. I think Wardlow has a future in acting and staying with AEW with a presumed Warner Discovery Connect. Maybe a catalyst in that. What say you? Well, I mean, excuse me. You're thinking long term here. We don't know if AEW is still going to be with Warner and Discovery at that point. When their TV deal is up, they could end up going somewhere else. Or Warner and Discovery may not, maybe they're not interested. Maybe they don't want to pay what they paid before. So we don't even know where AEW is going to be in a couple of years. So I think we just have to wait and see on that. I think it's a little premature to assume they're still going to be working together. And GCC, is Reigns the WWE version of Okada as champions go? It depends on what you mean by that. He is the Okada in that he is the biggest star in the company. But he's not Okada, when it comes to matches and in-ring work. And Reigns is very good, but no, on that level, he's not Okada. Very few are. But he is the biggest star in the company. He's probably the guy who, if he was to go down with a significant injury, it would affect the company more than any other singular person that I could think of. And I feel the same way about Okada in New Japan. So if that's how you're talking about it, then yeah, I agree. Wardlow against Alex Hammerstone. That'd be an interesting match. I don't know how much time Hammerstone has on his MLW deal. He and Jacob Fatu, they've been in MLW for a while, but those are two guys, especially Fatu, is someone who, he's got to have a bigger platform. I'm sorry, he's too good in the ring to not have a bigger platform. Juan says, thanks for the stream. My dad is dealing with COVID for the second time, but he's good. Won't see my parents for another 2 weeks. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully your father gets over it quickly. What happened to be the book? Well, we haven't gotten to it yet. We're hanging out. We're having fun. Are you not having fun, Bliss fan? Bliss fan is very, very, very impatient tonight. GCC says, not work rate, just his current reign goes. Yeah, I mean, how long was that last Okada reign? The big Okada reign. I'm trying to think. It was how many months? Was it 2 years? It was a while, right? So yeah, I would say in that regard they're similar. You don't find too many title runs these days that are as long as those reigns were. The long one that Okada had, and the one that Reigns is on right now. How happy for Big Boy Jonah in the G1? I think it's great. I think it's going to be a great platform for him to show what he can do. We had him in House of Glory a couple of times. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I missed his last match, which was against Jacob Fatu, ironically enough, in the House of Glory World Title Tournament. And Fatu won. He's moving on. But, Jonah is, he's a big guy who can move around, who never got a fair shake in NXT. They fired him. They got rid of him. He never had a shot. He should have had a shot. And now he gets to go out there, whether it's in House of Glory or New Japan or MLW or Impact, or where I know he spent some time in Impact, I think about a year. He can go and ply his craft and do his thing. And he's a very talented guy, agile, big guy. I enjoyed calling the last match I got to call of his in House of Glory when he came off the top rope, all three of us, all the announcers, just in unison doing the whole tsunami splash call. Was a lot of fun. It's a big guy coming off the top rope, too. So when he came off the top rope with that splash, you knew it was over. He would turn you into a pancake. And ain't nobody kicking out of that. Hunter Peckham, what do you think Carmelo Hayes' ceiling is on the main roster? Carmelo Hayes is a guy who I think has the potential to one day be a world champion. The one thing that is going to work against him as soon as Vince McMahon lays eyes on him is his size and how short he is relative to other people that are on the main roster. It's going to work against him. And it's not something he can't overcome. There have been people who are on the shorter side. Look, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were considered small. Back then, compared to the other people on the roster, and they were able to make it through. Hey, Ryan Colando, thank you for the sub. Welcome to the channel. We are approaching 300 likes, but we're not there yet, so get those likes in if you haven't already done so. So Carmelo Hayes is somebody I'm very bullish on him. I think he's got all the talent in the world, and he carries himself with a certain swagger and confidence that the guy, he looks like a star. He talks like a star. He acts like a star. He should be a star. His ceiling, I think, could be the world championship. But people who are currently in charge, Vince McMahon, that's really who I'm talking about. I could see him taking one look at him and, seeing him in the ring, and now he's too small. And then he just kind of gets slotted at a certain level. And I think that would be a mistake. Because Braun Breaker is not the only potential future big-time world champion that they have down there. Carmelo Hayes should be on that list too. But they probably look at somebody like Grayson Waller, and maybe they think more of him because he's a little bit taller. He's a little bit bigger. And I think that's complete nonsense. Bob the Builder, where does Gargano end up? Have no idea. He may end up, honestly, back in WWE. I could see Johnny Gargano ending right back up in NXT. Have no idea where his head is at. I know there are people in AEW he would love to work with. He has openly talked on his streams about wanting to work with Bryan Danielson. And if he feels strongly enough about that, then AEW would be the place for him to go. I'm sure Tony Khan would love to have him in his company. But I don't know, something tells me that if I had to guess where he ends up ultimately, I could see him back in WWE. I maybe feel a little less confident about that now that his wife isn't there anymore. But it's not a slam dunk guarantee he's going to end up in AEW, I don't think. Ed went to go see Thor tonight. How was that? I think Thor is getting pretty good reviews. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
You've waited long enough. You've been very patient. It's almost 1:30 in the morning here on the East Coast. So let us be the booker and book our own matches here. Everyone's talking about the forbidden door. I'm so sick of hearing that phrase. Let's do our own little forbidden door here on the stream tonight. Start with the men. We begin with Jim Cornette. Didn't I just talk about him earlier with the tennis racket? Calling up Stephen P. New for gimmick infringement on Mansois and Massey walking out with tennis rackets on SmackDown tonight. And there he is. There's the smiling face of the angriest man in wrestling, Jim Cornette. Oh, I so want this to land on Kenny Omega right now. I so want this to land on Kenny Omega. You have no idea. JM with the $50 super chat drop. There's Vince McMahon taking that big gulp, looking over at his trophy wife. I don't even think they live in the same house anymore. I don't even think they live in the same state. What a sham marriage those two have. JM says, last one, solely because you broke the Vince news for me tonight. Keep up the great work. Well, a very appropriate super chat in light of the news. I wonder if that's the look that Vince gave when that Wall Street Journal story came out. Thank you, JM, for the 50, man. You've come in hot tonight. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see who Cornette's going to be stepping into the ring with. There's a lot of people in this Be the Booker. I'm sure Jim Cornette has a beef with, he doesn't like. Any number of people. It could be anybody. It's going to be Jim Cornette going one-on-one with Tony Khan. Oh, I love it. I love it. Jim Cornette against Tony Khan. I'm sure he's got a lot of issues with Tony Khan. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons he'd love to get in the ring with Tony Khan and smack him around. That right there is a winner. See, that's a match I think Cornette would step into the ring for. I think Jim Cornette, in his mind, I think he's very confident that he could take Tony Khan. I call that a winner. That's a winning match right there. I'd pay to see that match just to see how it turns out. It would be fucking awful, but awful in a good way. Awful in an entertaining way. Oh, we're not beating that tonight. I don't think we're beating that tonight. We start out here on the women's side with AJ Lee. The lovely AJ Lee, who also has a book up on Audible, by the way. All you people who didn't realize that you get 2 free books if you got Prime, when you use our link, you can get AJ's book as your second book. You get Mox and you get the AJ book. That one's up there too. I remember when the AJ book came out, the audio book, years ago, probably 5 years ago now, people went crazy using my link. AJ Lee against Jillian Hall. Ugh. That is not a very exciting match. We always end up bringing the mood down when we do these women's matches. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of women in there too. We just can't seem to get it right on the women's side. So we try with the tag teams. Hopefully we'll have some better luck here. I know that Spicy Chicken in the chat is hoping for an NXT team to come up here, so let's see. No, it's not an NXT team, but it is a hell of a tag team. It is the Motor City Machine Guns. That's a pretty good... I'd say it's a pretty damn good way to start out the tag team Be the Booker. Hey, Quintus Brown, thank you for the $2 with Dave Meltzer as the special guest referee for Cornette against Tony Khan. Well, that would be unfair to Cornette. I think Dave would be a little bit biased there in that match. Food Hive says, Crack-fueled Tony Khan against Grumpy Grandpa. Thank you for that. You can't tell me that match would not be entertaining. All right, well, we got the Motor City Machine Guns here. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. They're going to be stepping into the ring with Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. Oh, I really thought we were going to get a bell on this one. You put the Motor City Machine Guns in there with almost anybody, that's going to be a great match. I don't know about Jim Ross in there, though. They do make a hell of a team, though, you got to say. Back in the day, peak of the Attitude Era, even pre-Attitude Era. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on commentary? I mean, come on. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, they're only number 3, though, on my list. My personal list of all-time great announced team combos. I have them at number 3 on my list. JR would bury his own match. Probably. Well, there you have it. Crack-fueled Tony Khan against Angry Grandpa Jim Cornette. Easily the winner of Be the Booker tonight. I told you, we weren't going to book a better match than that. I think that would sell some pay-per-views. What do you think? Put that shit on Fight TV. They'd probably set records with that. And you got to have Rick Knox as the referee. Isn't that Cornette's favorite referee? Or is it Aubrey? Actually, Aubrey might be his favorite referee. Oh, my goodness. So this has been fun hanging out. Some good questions. Some interesting comments in your super chats here tonight. I always appreciate the support. You guys know that. And again, hit that like button if you have not already done so. And you could sub to the channel as well. We are on our way to 70,000 subs. I don't know when we'll get there, but we are on our way. Kenny Omega would come back right now if he was out in that match. Yeah, if I had picked Kenny Omega, I think you're right. Even though he's not 100% yet, even if he's at 65%, he'd come back for that match. I should put Josh Matthews and the Pope in there as a team. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. JR would have to do a tope in that match. You want to kill good old JR? For those who may have missed it, I mentioned it at the beginning. If you are a channel member, it's up. It's about an hour long. Went live on Wednesday afternoon for a watch along of the Canadian Stampede in Your House main event. And had a lot of fun with that, going back and watching that match. And man, just the crowd reaction, the entrances, Bret Hart himself. My God, I'm losing my voice. Bret Hart himself said that was the loudest ovation he has ever gotten in his entire career, was that walk down the ramp at the Saddle Dome that night, even bigger than Wembley against the Bulldog. And they had 80,000 people in that stadium. They had 11,000 people in the Saddle Dome. And he said there's never been a louder reaction in his entire career. So if you missed it, it's up right now for channel members only. You can go back and check that out. And we'll probably, the 30th anniversary of that Wembley match at SummerSlam is actually coming up at the end of next month, and that might be our next watch-along. We might do the Wembley match with Bret and Bulldog. And then we get into the fall and some interesting anniversary. I'm trying to do anniversaries, and of course, we have the 25-year anniversary of the very first Hell in a Cell coming up in October, right around my birthday, so probably have to do one for that. How do you not do one for that, right? One of the greatest matches of all time and the greatest debut in WWE history. I mean, come on. Spicy Dried Chicken, Tony Khan and Jim Cornette in a promo battle. Well, we know who's going to win that. I mean, come on. That's not a fair fight. How old is Dave Meltzer? Isn't Dave getting close to 60? I think he's pushing 60, I think. Mid-50s at least. Tell you what, he looks good. You see the guns on Meltzer? I don't know, whenever I see a picture of him like at a PWG show or something, and he's like in the front row with his notepad or whatever, he's got the guns, man. I mean, his arms are bigger than most wrestlers today. That's the problem with the wrestling business. When the wrestling writers have bigger arms than the wrestlers themselves, you know something is wrong. All right, it's getting late. Again, this has been fun. I will see you guys on Sunday, episode 764. Wow. I have a lot of work to do tomorrow, but we're going to have a packed show on Sunday and then right back here live next Wednesday for Fyter Fest Week 1. We'll be live after AEW Dynamite as we usually are. So be well, stay safe. He's 62? Is he really? Alexander the Great says that Meltzer is 62. I'll have to look at that. That could be right. I thought he was pushing 60. I didn't realize he was 62, but wow. Are we talking about, who are you talking about? You're talking about Meltzer, right? That surprises me. I didn't know that he was in his 60s yet. To see if that's true. Well, anyway, he's got the guns going. He's got the gun show going. So good for him, I guess, right? I'll see you guys on Sunday, though, for episode 764. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.